But first, Caitlin Clark making rounds. The Indiana Fever under a microscope. Ticket sales looking shaky, baby. Let's get right into it. Caitlin Clark delivering, and the Indiana Fever delivering a promo for tonight's playoff game. Do or die, win or go home against the Atlanta Dream.
You ever scroll Ticketmaster and think you found a typo? That's exactly what happened when Indiana Fever playoff tickets showed up for the low price of $9. Yeah, you heard that right, 9. Less than a Chipotle burrito with extra guac. Cheaper than a Happy Meal if you supersize it. And no, I'm not talking about some mid-season Tuesday night game against a bottom feeder. This is the WNBA playoffs. A franchise returning to the postseason at home for the first time since 2016. And tickets are basically on the clearance rack next to discounted Halloween candy. So what happened? How did the Fever, who were selling out arenas just a few months ago, suddenly become a bargain bin ticket? Well, here's the not-so-secret truth. Caitlin Clark isn't playing. She's on the bench in street clothes, and just like that, demand evaporated. One player goes down, and suddenly the atmosphere feels more like a Tuesday scrimmage at your local YMCA than a playoff showcase. Now let's be clear. This isn't just a Fever problem. This is a WNBA problem. Because when your entire ticket market collapses the second one player isn't on the court, that's not bad luck. That's a warning sign. It's one thing to have a superstar. It's another to build your entire economy on her shoulders. And right now, those $9 tickets are screaming something nobody at league headquarters wants to say out loud. Without Clark, this isn't the same product. So let me ask you right here. Are these bargain bin prices proof that the WNBA is dangerously dependent on Caitlin Clark, or are fans simply being disrespectful to the rest of the Fever roster? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm dying to see where you stand. Let's not kid ourselves. The whole $9 ticket fiasco doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists because of Caitlin Clark. This isn't just some random star player missing time. This is the most important player the WNBA has ever had, at least from a business standpoint. Before Clark, Fever tickets were basically pocket change. Gainbridge Fieldhouse was rarely close to full, and the team was stuck in rebuild mode, praying fans would show up out of loyalty. Then Clark arrived, and suddenly it was like Indiana had discovered oil under the hardwood. When Clark was on the floor, ticket prices skyrocketed. Nosebleeds ran at $160. Courtside seats topped $4,000. Games weren't just sellouts, they were events. People drove from Iowa, Chicago, and beyond just to get a glimpse of her pulling up from 30 feet or dishing out one of those highlight no-look passes. Road games had to be moved into bigger arenas just to handle demand. Washington bumped a Fever game from its cozy 4,200-seat venue into a 14,000-seat arena. Chicago moved their game into the United Center. This wasn't normal WNBA growth. This was the Caitlin Clark economy. The Fever went from afterthought to main attraction in one season. Merchandise flew off the shelves. Networks started prioritizing Fever games in prime slots. By mid-season, Clark wasn't just the star of Indiana, she was the story of the WNBA.
First playoff game since 2016! I need to see every single person in Indianapolis, whether you're inside the arena, be outside the arena, I don't care, show up. Get loud for my teammates. We need to get a dub, and we're taking back to Atlanta. Let's go!
Get loud, fans. We need you. We need you tomorrow night. Get loud. Get on your feet.
Fans, I want to see you loud, get proud, Fever time. This is the only time I want you to have a fever. Get that temp up, get that loudness up, get up out your seat.
Get out. Get out. Tell me. Get on your feet. Make some noise.
What's up, fans? We need y'all tomorrow. We gotta give everything we got.
Every record-breaking attendance figure had her fingerprints all over it. And that's the point. When one player can elevate an entire league's relevance, you're not just talking about a star, you're talking about the foundation. So when Clark announced on September 4th that she'd miss the rest of the season, the market didn't hesitate. Ticket demand cratered, viewership dropped, and suddenly the WNBA's shiny new empire was built on quicksand. Here's where the numbers get absolutely insane. Not long ago, Indiana Fever tickets were being resold for the kind of prices you'd normally associate with NBA Finals games or Taylor Swift concerts. Courtside seats soared past $4,000. Even the cheap seats, way up in the rafters, were being listed at $160 or more. For a WNBA team that had struggled for years to fill the lower bowl, this was uncharted territory. The Caitlin Clark effect wasn't hype. It was a cold, hard market reality. Fans were willing to spend absurd amounts of money just to be in the building. And then, almost overnight, the market collapsed. Clark's September 4th announcement that she wouldn't return for the playoffs was like a switch flipping. Suddenly, playoff tickets that should have been a celebration of Indiana's first home postseason game since 2016 were available for less than a combo meal at Wendy's. $9. $9. Courtside dropped all the way to around $200. Think about that. The same seats that had been commanding thousands just weeks earlier were now cheaper than what some people spend on a pair of sneakers. The optics were brutal. Social media lit up with fans joking about scooping up playoff seats for the price of gas money. Others compared it to local high school games that were charging more at the door. And for a league trying to project growth, stability, and long-term momentum, nothing could be more damaging than those screenshots of $9 playoff tickets being passed around online. This wasn't just about demand cooling off. It was about what Clark's absence exposed. The Fever didn't just lose their superstar. They lost their draw, their magnetism, their economic engine. And the $9 price tag made the truth crystal clear. Without Clark, this wasn't the same product, and the market knew it. If you think ticket sales are the only thing tanking without Caitlin Clark, think again. The ripple effects stretch far beyond Indiana's box office. Every time Clark sits, the entire WNBA feels it. We've already seen the numbers. When she missed 5 games earlier this season, national TV ratings nosedived by more than 55%. That's not a dip, that's a free fall.
Whatever's left in the tank and the fuel, we're gonna need for y'all to pour into it. So show us some love. We need.
Caitlin Clark delivering a promo, but do you know what also stood out to me, folks? And I think we figured out why we don't see Mikayla Timpson anymore. I'm just noticing some things, folks. I'm just noticing things. Remember early in the season, it would always be Mikayla Timpson by Natasha Howard's side. It would always be Mikayla Timpson with Natasha Howard's arm right around her shoulder. Hey, come here, little rook. But it seems not only has Brianna Turner replaced Mikayla Timpson in the game, but it seems as if Brianna Turner has replaced Natasha Howard, has replaced Mikayla Timpson as Natasha Howard's. Is it a coincidence?
Games that had been drawing over 1 million viewers suddenly struggled to scrape together 350,000. For context, that's the difference between a marquee broadcast and something barely above late-night reruns. And it didn't stop there. Even the All-Star game wasn't immune. Clark was supposed to be a team captain, one of the headliners for the league's showcase weekend. When her injury kept her out, ratings dropped 36% compared to last year. That's not just bad luck. That's the market screaming. We came for Clark, not the opening acts. It's like buying tickets to a music festival, only to find out the headliner canceled. Sure, the openers might be talented, but let's be honest, you didn't pay to see them. Attendance tells the same story. With Clark, arenas sell out. Teams like Chicago and Washington were moving games into NBA arenas just to handle the demand. Without her, we're back to empty seats, discounted prices, and environments that feel more like regular season filler than playoff basketball. The truth is brutal. One player's health is dictating the trajectory of the entire league. And that dependency isn't just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. Because it reveals a foundation that looks a lot more fragile than the hype would have you believe. If Clark isn't on the floor, the WNBA isn't just less exciting. It's less relevant. Here's the part that really stings if you're a Fever fan. By every other measure, this season should be a massive celebration. Indiana finished with 24 wins, hit double digits in road victories for the first time since the mid-2010s, and earned back-to-back playoff appearances for the first time since the Tamika Catchings era. That's not nothing. In fact, it's historic. They shook off years of being a league afterthought and actually built momentum that should have fans proud. Kelsey Mitchell deserves huge credit here. She became the first player in franchise history to average over 20 points a game for an entire season. Aaliyah Boston continued her dominance on the glass, breaking her own rebounding records and reminding everyone why she's the backbone of Indiana's front court. Add in the contributions of role players. Lexi Hull's versatility, Odyssey Sims' spark off the bench, Ariel Power's timely scoring, and you'd think this squad had all the makings of a feel-good playoff story. But instead of headlines about resilience, all anyone is talking about is the absence of Clark and the $9 playoff tickets. That's the cruel reality of building your franchise's identity around one superstar. Even when the team itself is showing growth, discipline, and fight, the market says otherwise. Fans aren't flocking to Gainbridge Fieldhouse to watch a well-balanced team effort. They're staying home because the generational star they came to see is in street clothes. So while Indiana should be soaking in praise for their first winning season in nearly a decade, they're stuck battling a different narrative.
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think Michaela Timpson's like, let me... And then Stephanie White said, oh, you don't want to play ball? All right, you can sit on the bench then. You don't want to play ball? You don't want to play ball with the vet? Do what the vet tells you to do? When Natasha Howard walks, you want to... All right, Michaela Timpson, fine. You can sit on the bench. We're going to swap roles, you and Brianna Turner. Brianna Turner's going to get in that game. Caitlin Clark delivered the promo.
First playoff game since 2016.
Nobody cares without Clark. And that hurts. It's not fair to Mitchell, Boston, or the rest of the roster, but it's the reality of modern sports. Without star power, even success feels invisible. Here's the uncomfortable truth the WNBA doesn't want to say out loud. This league has built its entire modern identity around one player. And that player isn't Diana Taurasi, Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, or even Angel Reese. It's Caitlin Clark. That's not a knock on the incredible talent across the league. It's a reflection of the market. Fans are showing up for Clark in numbers they've never shown up for anyone else. Networks are scheduling around her. Opposing teams are moving games into bigger venues only when she's in town. That's not growth across the board. That's star dependency at its peak. The problem is, it's incredibly risky. Building a league around one player is like building a skyscraper on a single support beam. Sure, it looks impressive while everything's holding up. But the second that beam cracks, the whole thing wobbles. That's what we're seeing with Clark's injury. Ticket sales tank, TV ratings collapse, and playoff buzz fizzles. A generational star being unavailable isn't just bad luck. It's an existential threat. Think about it. In the NBA, if LeBron misses time, people still tune in for Curry, Giannis, Luka, or Jokic. The NFL has Mahomes, Burrow, Lamar, and a dozen other household names. The WNBA? Right now, the casual fan isn't racing to buy tickets to watch Asia Wilson's footwork or Stewie's versatility. They should be, because those players are elite. But the reality is, the average sports fan has latched onto Clark, and only Clark. That's why the $9 tickets sting so much. They're not just cheap seats. They're a neon sign flashing the league's biggest problem. Until the WNBA develops and markets multiple megastars who can carry interest, it will rise and fall with one player. And that's not sustainable. Here's where the timing couldn't be worse for the WNBA. Right now, the league is in the middle of what should be its biggest growth spurt in history. A massive 11-year, $2.2 billion media rights deal is set to kick in by 2026. 2 new expansion teams are on the way. One in San Francisco backed by Joe Lacob's Golden State Warriors and another in Toronto, giving the league a true international footprint. Salaries are set to rise, corporate sponsorships are flowing in, and for the first time in decades, the WNBA looked like it was stepping confidently into a sustainable, mainstream future. And then reality smacked them in the face. The star powering nearly 30% of the league's economic momentum is sidelined, and ticket sales are crashing harder than a bad IPO.
I need to see
You guys get what I'm talking about.
every single person in Indianapolis, whether you're inside the arena, be outside the arena, I don't care. Show up. Get loud for my teammates. We need to get a dub, and we're taking back to Atlanta. Let's go!
There it is. There it is. You know, CDS. We're sorry our organization treated you like... Oh, damn. Ticket sales must be low. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Ticket sales must be... Oh, snap. Oh, before we get into that, let's look at some things that Fever fans are noticing about this promo. You have Indiana Fever just had Caitlin Clark cut a WWE promo. Waiting for CM Punk. It's understandable. Oh, here we go. It's understandable in this era to figure that tickets for playoff games are more expensive than the regular season, but Fever tickets for Tuesday night remain very affordable. $12, $13. I don't know what they're going to lie about as far as attendance goes.
Those $9 playoff seats aren't just an Indiana Fever problem. They're a warning flare for the entire league. What happens when your big expansion team rolls out its debut season and Clark's not on the schedule? What happens when ESPN and ABC have to explain why ratings dropped 55% overnight because one player isn't available? Suddenly, that shiny new TV deal doesn't look so bulletproof. Think about the optics. If you're a sponsor, do you want to attach your brand to a league where playoff tickets cost less than a Starbucks Frappuccino the second one player goes down? If you're a broadcaster, are you really paying billions for rights to games that barely crack 400,000 viewers without Clark on the floor? That's the nightmare scenario executives are quietly panicking over. The WNBA has momentum, no doubt, but it also has fragility. The league is learning the hard way that expansion and billion-dollar deals don't mean much if your foundation rests on the health of one player's groin muscle. Here's where the $9 playoff tickets really slap you in the face. Fans aren't just whispering their opinion, they're screaming it with their wallets. When Caitlin Clark was healthy, people were paying $400 for courtside seats, traveling from Iowa just to see her warm up, and turning Fever games into national events. Now, those same fans are scrolling past playoff tickets cheaper than a bucket of popcorn. This isn't about disrespecting Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, or the rest of the Fever roster. They're putting together an incredible season. But the market has made its stance brutally clear. No Clark, no cash. That's how pro sports fandom works. People connect with stars, not team logos. It's why NBA arenas still fill when LeBron or Steph come to town, regardless of who else is on the roster. And right now, the Fever don't just have an attendance problem. They've become the case study for the entire league. If fans won't show up for Indiana's first home playoff game in nearly a decade unless Clark is on the floor, what does that say about the WNBA's so-called growth era? So here's where we land. $9 playoff tickets aren't just a quirky stat. They're the ultimate gut check for the Indiana Fever and the WNBA. A team that should be celebrating its best season in nearly a decade is instead stuck fighting headlines about empty seats and bargain bin prices. And why? Because the one player who single-handedly carried the hype train is in street clothes. It's not fair to Kelsey Mitchell, who's having a historic scoring season. It's not fair to Aaliyah Boston, who keeps breaking records on the glass. And it's not fair to a roster that clawed their way back into playoff contention despite injury after injury. But fairness doesn't sell tickets. Star power does. And Caitlin Clark's absence has exposed just how fragile this growth era of the WNBA really is. The real question now isn't whether Indiana can scrape together a playoff win. It's whether the league can learn from this wake-up call. Can the WNBA build multiple marketable stars, or will it always live and die by one player? What do you think? Are $9 playoff tickets proof the Fever were doomed without Clark, or just an overreaction from casual fans? Drop your take in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe so you never miss the next update.